सम्पूर्ण साथीभाइहरू जो अहिले फेसबुक, युट्युब र इन्स्टाग्राम हेरेर बसिराख्नु भएको छ, तपाईँलाई आज शुभ सायम भन्न चाहन्छु। र हाम्रो आज भोलिको बहुतै जल्दो बल्दो र धेरै महत्त्वपूर्ण शीर्षक एजुकेसन अथवा शिक्षा। रेनल्ड्सबर्गमा हुँदै गरेको एजुकेसन सिस्टम अथवा यो देशको शिक्षा व्यवस्था, अहिलेको आप्रवासीहरूको समस्या र यसमा अहिले अमेरिकामा आउँदै गरेका नयाँ कानुन र यिन कानुनहरूले हाम्रो समाजप्रति बनाउन सक्ने प्रबल हुन सक्ने सम्भाव्य आउटकमहरू के हुन सक्छन् त, विशेषतः रेनल्ड्सबर्गको मातहतमा रहेर यस्ता विषयमा आज हामी छलफल गर्नेछौँ। रेनल्ड्सबर्ग भन्दा रेनल्ड्सबर्गदेखि बाहिरका विषयमा नि कुराकानी हुन्छन्, तर यहाँ केन्द्रित हुन्छ। र तपाईँ सबैजनालाई म के भन्छु भने तपाईँले यो भिडियोलाई हेर्नुहोला, लाइक गर्नुहोला, कमेन्ट गर्नुहोला र सकेसम्म धेरै प्रश्नहरू सोधेर सहयोग गरिदिनुहोला। म यो कुरा आजको यो विषयमा रेनल्ड्सबर्गबाट दुईजना पाहुनाहरू हुनुहुन्छ, उहाँहरूको छोटो परिचय पढेर सुनाउँछु। तर त्योभन्दा अगाडि तपाईँ सबैजनालाई मेरो अनुरोध सधैँ चाहिँ तपाईँ फेसबुकमा हेर्दै हुनुहुन्छ भने कृपया फलो गर्नुहोला। तपाईँको फ्रेन्ड रिक्वेस्ट पठाउँदा मलाई फ्रेन्ड रिक्वेस्ट आउँदैन। र युट्युबमा हेर्दै हुनुहुन्छ भने कृपया सब्सक्राइब गरिदिनु होला र यसलाई भरिसके तपाईँलाई युट्युबमा हेरिदिनु होला। र म आजका पाहुनाको परिचय तयार पारेको छ, तर परिचय चाहिँ मैले अङ्ग्रेजीमै तयार पारेको छु र म उहाँको परिचय पढ्दै जानेछु। मसँग पहिलो पाहुना हुन्छ नील व्हाइटम्यान। Now serving his third term on the board, Neil grew up in Texas, earning his BA at University of Texas at Austin. He moved to Ohio in 1992 and over the years gradually became Buckeye, meeting and marrying his wife Amanda, settling in Reynoldsburg in 1999, graduating with PhD in linguistics from Ohio State University in 2002. He and Amanda have two sons who both attended Reynoldsburg schools from kindergarten, graduated from Reynoldsburg High School in 2017 and 19, and went to study at the Ohio State University. Neil works at the intercultural English language programs in a College of Education and Human Ecology at OSU, where he teaches academic writing as well as spoken English in international teaching assistants. He has developed a passion for history of Reynoldsburg School, and over the past several years has created interactive map of district and city boundaries, written a history covering 75 years of district successes and failure with the tax levies, digitalized all of the surviving board minutes from 1912 to 1951 to be stored with those that were already in digital form. यो चाहिँ नील वेटम्यानको मैले परिचय पढेर सुनाएँ। र मसँग अर्को पाहुना हुनुहुन्छ डेभिड डनल्याप भनेर, उहाँको पनि म फेरि अङ्ग्रेजीमै पढेर सुनाउँछु। David Dunlap is a long-time Reynoldsburg resident and served in the Reynoldsburg Board of Education for 8 years and on the Eastland Fairfield Career and Technical School Board of Education for 3 years. She holds a bachelor's degree in communications and has served as a writer, public affairs specialist overseas, and a radio news broadcaster. Currently, she is working on her master's degree in elementary education and will soon become a teacher with her own classroom. She is an avid volunteer in the community, serving as a chair of Reynoldsburg Education Foundation, editor of Reynoldsburg Magazine, and has served on other various committees and boards. She has 3 children who have graduated from the Reynoldsburg City School District and is a strong proponent of public education. मैले उहाँहरू दुईजनाको परिचय पढेर सुनाएँ। म उहाँहरूलाई स्क्रिनमा तान्दैछु। Namaste to both of you.
Namaste.
All right. Thank you. What I did was you can understand, I think you might have heard about that. I did read your introduction in English, but moving forward, I will be asking you the question in English, and most probably I'll be getting answer in English, and after that I will be Neil, what happened? You're good. You're good. Okay. And okay, I'll be answering those your questions into interpreting those into Nepali, and we'll go from there. So with that, again, thank you for coming. And for my audience, please put your questions and comments म दुईटै भाषामा बोल्छु, उहाँहरूलाई अङ्ग्रेजीमा सोध्छु र उहाँहरूले दिएको जवाबलाई नेपालीमा आउँछु. So, Neil, I'll start with you, and thank you again for coming and finding time. So, first of all, since you are serving in the board in Reynoldsburg for last 3 terms, that means it is 12 years you are in the board, right? Going to be 12 years very soon.
Well, it's almost 9 years. Well, it's been 9 years. I'm working on my 10th, but if I finish this term, it will have been 12 years.
12 years. So going to be 12 years very soon on the board. So my question is, I'll be asking this question to both of you because it is both objective and subjective. What is public education? Very simple question, but it has a very many answers in today's environment. Can you share that one? Let me before ask this question into Nepali as well. मसँग निल वाइटम्यान हुनुहुन्छ. मैले उहाँलाई सोधेको थिएँ. उहाँ रेनल्ड्सबर्ग सिटी स्कुलको बोर्डमा हुनुहुन्छ. अहिलेसम्म उहाँले 9 वर्षसम्म त्यहाँ बोर्डमा हुनुहुन्छ. अब 12 वर्ष हुनै लाग्नु भएको छ, किनभने यो टर्ममा 12 वर्षको हुन्छ. मैले उहाँलाई क्वेसन सोधेको छु, पब्लिक एजुकेसन अथवा सरकारी शिक्षा व्यवस्था भनेको के हो र यसको महत्त्व के छ भनेर उहाँ दुईजनालाई क्वेसन सोध्दैछु.
Okay, who do you want to answer it first?
Neil, I'm asking you first, then I'll go to Debbie.
Okay. Well, I like to say public education is a public good. So, there are a lot of things that, here we sort of expect the government to provide for us, usable roads and water systems and, electric and, gas utility grids, as well as, firefighters and police. And all of these things, they're there for everybody. And even if we don't use them. So, I mean, hopefully we don't need us personally to have a firefighter. And hopefully we don't need to have personally the services of the police, but they're there for everybody, whether they, use them or not. And then similarly, public schools, a whole community is better, and and our democracy can survive if those public schools are there for everybody, whether you have kids in them like I used to, or whether you, or whether you don't. It's better to live in a community that takes care of its kids and wants and tries to help them grow up to be happy and productive citizens.
थ्याङ्क यू. मैले निललाई सोधेको थिएँ सरकारी शिक्षा व्यवस्था किन छ, यो के छ भनेर उहाँलाई सोधेको थिएँ. उहाँको विचारमा के छ भन्दाखेरि उहाँ भन्नुहुन्छ सरकारी व्यवस्था भनेको सबै समाजका सबै तबकाका मान्छेलाई हुने खालको व्यवस्था हो. जस्तो कि अब हामीले मानिलिउँ अब रोड छ, यो रोड प्रयोग गरे पनि नगरे सबैलाई प्रयोग गर्न सकिन्छ. फायर फाइटर्स पुलिस मान्छेले प्रयोग गरे पनि नगरे पनि त्यो सबैले प्रयोग गर्न सक्छन्. जस्तो कि जसरी फायर फाइटर पुलिस जस्तै त्यो पनि पब्लिक सरकारी स्कुल पनि सबैका हितका लागि हुन्छ. केटाकेटी स्कुल जाने भए पनि नभए पनि र त्यस कारणले पब्लिक एजुकेसन चाहिँ हुनु बहुतै महत्त्वपूर्ण छ भन्ने कुरा उहाँले बताउनु भयो. डेभी, क्यान आई आस्क द सेम क्वेसन टु यु एन्ड देन विल गो डाउन फ्रम देयर. What is public education in your view?
So public education, in my view, very, very similar to Neil Whitman's. We served on the board together for 8 years, and we have many similar thoughts. But just to add to that a little bit, yes, public education is not only, a right, but is something that allows individuals to become better individuals and contributing individuals to our society. It's something that not only uplifts that student, but uplifts the greater good, uplifts communities, uplifts states, uplifts the entire country. And I would like to add that not only is education, public education, a right of every single person, citizen in this country, but is also quality education is very, very important. And I think we're going to talk a little bit later about some of the things that rob our local schools and our local school districts of quality education, money being one of those things. So, that is just something that I feel very strongly about. Public education is for all, and it is something that is constantly under attack, and we must continuously fight for it.
Thank you. धन्यवाद. मैले उहाँलाई पनि सोधेको थिएँ सरकारी शिक्षा किन आवश्यक छ, सरकारी स्कुलहरू किन आवश्यक छ भनेर उहाँलाई सोद्धाखेरि उहाँ भन्नुहुन्छ निल विटम्यानले जो भन्नुहुन्थ्यो त्यस्तै मेरो एन्सर पनि हुनसक्छ। तर त्यो भन्दै गर्दाखेरि पब्लिक एजुकेसन चाहिँ के हो भन्दाखेरि पब्लिक एजुकेसन भनेको सबैको उत्थानका लागि, एउटा व्यक्ति र एउटा मान्छेको एउटा तबकाको मान्छेले मात्रै नभएर सबैको उत्थानका लागि पब्लिक एजुकेसन हुनुपर्छ। यो सबै नागरिकहरूको अधिकार मात्रै नभएर यो उहाँहरू सबैले हुनै पर्ने एक किसिमको आवश्यकताको कुरा पनि हो। तर पब्लिक एजुकेसन सबैलाई हुनुपर्छ भन्दा हुँदैन क्वालिटी त्यसभित्रको जुन हुनुपर्ने एउटा त्यसमा जो हुनुपर्ने क्वालिटी जो हो त्यसको आवश्यकता अनुसार चाहिँ क्वालिटी पनि हुनुपर्छ। तर अहिले विचार गर्दा गर्दा गएको समय धेरै समयदेखि यता चाहिँ कतिवटा हाम्रो पब्लिक स्कुलको सम्पत्तिहरू लुटिँदैछ, रब हुँदैछ भनेको कुरा चाहिँ कतिवटा बजेट पैसाहरू घटाउने कुराकानी भइरहेको छ। त्यसका बारेमा हामी एकछिनमा कुराकानी गर्नेछौँ भनेर उहाँले भन्दै हुनुहुन्छ। र यो सबै सिटिजनको अधिकार हो, साथसाथै अधिकार सँगसँगै यो हामीले राख्नै पर्ने एउटा अति आवश्यक कुरा पनि हो भन्नुहुँदैछ। थ्याङ्क यू। सबै हेर्ने साथीहरू तपाईँ जो हेर्दै हुनुहुन्छ तपाईँले कृपया युट्युबमा गएर हेर्नुहोला र तपाईँले सेयर गरिदिनु होला। तपाईँ जो हुनुहुन्छ यो आजको बहुत महत्त्वपूर्ण शीर्षक छ, यसमा हामी कुराकानी गर्दैछौँ। So there's one question coming up here. Rudra Basnet is asking why public schools are so bad in America. It is so subjective. It's a bad or good is the question. Neil, do you want to answer this question, or are you going to go?
Why are they so? Okay. Well, you know, as someone with a degree in linguistics, I would like to object to that question. It's what we call a complex question. The question is, why are they so bad? And in order to answer that, that requires that I agree and assume that they are bad. And I disagree with that. For various historical reasons, public schools have been attacked by even our own government from the time I was a teenager, starting, you know, with the Reagan administration. In fact, even earlier, even back as far as the Brown versus Board of Education decision that, you know, that forced schools to, you know, to not discriminate and segregate based on race. So certainly schools have their problems. Ours certainly do. But if you look everywhere, look at, you know, CEOs and successful people everywhere, and just about every person you find who's out there making a living and, you know, and being a productive member of society, they went to public schools.
धन्यवाद रुद्र बस्नेतजी। तपाईँको प्रश्नको जवाबमा निल वेटम्यान भन्नुहुन्छ तपाईँले भन्नुभयो किन यति नराम्रो छ भन्ने कुरा गर्दै गर्दा उहाँ भन्नुहुन्छ यो भयङ्करै ठुलो र भयङ्करै जटिल प्रश्न हो, तर यो प्रश्न त्यति सजिलो पनि छैन, भित्रका धेरैवटा तन्तुहरू छन् यसका जवाब दिनका लागि। तर म तपाईँले भनेको कुरामा सहमति छुइनँ। किन यस्तो अवस्था छ पब्लिक एजुकेसनको अमेरिकामा भन्दाखेरि भने यो चाहिँ धेरै समयदेखि रेगन मतलब 1980 भन्दा अझै अगाडि ब्रोड वर्सेस ब्राउन what is the board versus Brown
Board of Education.
Brown versus Board of Education, not board versus Brown versus Board of Education. त्यो धेरै अगाडिको अमेरिकाको एउटा मामला थियो। त्यहाँदेखि नि पब्लिक एजुकेसनमा चाहिँ कुठाराघात भइरहेको छ र त्यसको उपज चाहिँ यो भएको हो। तर आज तपाईँ हेर्नुहुन्छ ठुल्ठुला कम्पनीका सिइओहरू लाखौँ करोडौँ पैसा कमाउने मान्छेहरूले पनि पब्लिक एजुकेसनै पाएका छन्। यस्तै गरी स्कुल गएका नानीहरू हुनु उति बेला र उनीहरूले धेरै राम्रो गरिरहेका छन् भन्ने कुरा गर्नुभयो। थ्याङ्क यू। So David, now I'll ask you next question to you. So we talk about the public education, and now let me ask you a question. What is private education, and how is this different from public education system in this country? Because we came from a different, I'll share you my experience with the private education back in Bhutan and in Nepal and in India, but in this country, how is it different from public education?
So as Neil and I talked about, public education is education for all, right? We don't have to pay for it. They can't turn us away because we cannot speak the language, because we have special needs, because of our beliefs. No one can turn us away, and they can't kick us out for any of those reasons as well. So public education is education for all. Private education is education that is privately funded. One thing Neil and I kind of didn't get into is the whole finance end of it, right? So public education is funded by taxpayers, be it federal, state, or local dollars. Private education is funded by private sources. And because they are funded by private sources, they therefore can decide who can come there, who cannot. who they can turn away, who they can kick out. Some people choose to go to, let's just say, for example, Catholic school, because that is their religion and that is their belief. And they want to go to school with other like-minded individuals and partake in religious education as part of that. So, I mean, a real down and dirty, nitty gritty difference between public and private education.
थ्याङ्क यू मैले डेभीलाई सोधेको थिएँ अब पब्लिक एजुकेसनको हामीले कुराकानी गऱ्यौँ र प्राइभेट एजुकेसन भनेको चाहिँ के हो त भन्दा उहाँ भन्नुहुन्छ प्राइभेट एजुकेसन भनेको चाहिँ सरी पब्लिक एजुकेसन भनेको सबैका लागि हो त्यहाँ सबैले जान पाउँछ कसैले कसैलाई खेदाउन सक्दैन त्यहाँनिर किनभने सबैका लागि हो र यसको आय स्रोत त पब्लिक एजुकेसन चल्नको लागि कहाँबाट पैसा आउँछ भन्दाखेरि फेडरल भए पनि स्टेट भए पनि लोकल भए पनि ट्याक्स पेमेन्टको जनताले त्यसको लागि ट्याक्सका रूपमा दिएको पैसाले गर्दा चलेको हुन्छ र त्यहाँ गइसकेपछि स्पेसल एजुकेसनको भए पनि भाषा नजानेको भए जस्तो मान्छेको भएलाई पनि वहाँनिर चाहिँ त्यो शिक्षा दिने व्यवस्था हुन्छ त्यस कारणले गर्दाखेरि पब्लिक भनेको सबैका लागि हो सब उदाहरणका लागि उहाँले क्याथोलिक स्कुल भन्नुभयो जुन क्याथोलिक क्रिस्चियन स्कुल छ त्यहाँनिर उहाँहरूको धर्म उहाँहरूको मत विश्वासका कारण त्यो जानुहुन्छ त्यहाँ आफूलाई मनपर्ने मान्छेहरूलाई पढाउने व्यवस्था छ तर त्यो चाहिँ प्राइभेट निजी पैसाले चलेको हुँदा त्यहाँ उहाँहरूले तँलाई नआइज भन्ने पनि अधिकार छ किनभने उहाँहरूको व्यक्तिगत पैसाले चलेको कुरा हुन्छ त्यस कारणले गर्दाखेरि पब्लिक स्कुल र प्राइभेट स्कुलमा डिफरेन्स यस्तो खालको कुरा हुन्छ भन्नुभयो थ्याङ्क यू Thank you so much. Now let's go into the other part of it. Neil, if you want to add anything else, let me feel free to do that. Rudra is putting each president, governors, senators, and mayors kids going to public schools. So I can tell at least for Reynoldsburg mayor, his kids went to public school only. They went to Reynoldsburg only. And the Devi, your kids went to Reynoldsburg only. And the Neil, you already mentioned in the introduction, they went to Reynoldsburg. And I am also elected officer. My kids go to Reynoldsburg public school only. So at least all of us who are here, yes, our kids go to public school, not private schools. So that's the answer at this time. For other people, I don't think we can talk about everybody, but at least for us. Do you want to add anything else here?
I think Debbie, thanks for filling in the things that that I didn't get to. Amen. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead.
Can I say this? So, for example, I lived in Erie, Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up. And my mother chose to send her children, I'm one of 5, to Catholic school. And that was, she was a teacher in the public school system in Erie, Pennsylvania, but made that choice for individual reasons. And because she made that choice, she paid tuition. She was a single mom, didn't have a whole lot of money. So we did get some scholarships that they offered as well. But being Catholic, that was something that she wanted for her children.
All right, thank you. So now my next question is, so we'll start from Neil. So since you are in the Board of Education here, Reynoldsburg School Board, not a Board of Education, Reynoldsburg School Board. We'll talk about the Board of Education in a minute after some time, but it's a big topic today in today's discussion throughout the country and trickle down to our city and our schools, all the system, DEI. Can you explain what is DEI? And what will be the possible impact? Because we're already seeing some when it's being removed, and now it's being removed. Can you talk about both the things?
Okay. Well, so first of all, DEI, this shortened form, it of course stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the reason it's become almost a taboo word now is because of something that that often happens for opponents of public schools and indeed opponents of representative democracy and inclusion in general. They like to take a term that people who are fighting for for representation and good government for all, they like to take one of those words and then add so many meanings to it until it becomes meaningless, and then it's like, oh, it's a dirty word. They don't even know what they mean by it anymore. They just say anything I don't like, it's DEI. A few years ago, it was critical race theory, which is this advanced, academic term that's a subject in grad school. They just started saying, oh, anything about race that I don't like, that's critical race theory, and it's all bad. So I can go on from there, but if you want to take a moment to translate that, I can pick up afterwards.
That's okay. Let me take that one. But you can finish your thought. I'm not interpreting everything else. I'm putting a summary only. But let me finish this one.
Okay. All right. So, but I mean,
let me
when you hear
finish.
someone say it now,
DEI भने मैले सोधेको थिएँ उहाँलाई DEI भनेको के हो भन्दा DEI भन्ने जुन शब्द हो यसले चाहिँ सबै किसिमका मान्छेलाई त्यहाँनेर मौका दिनुपर्छ भन्ने विषयको कुरा चाहिँ हो। तर अहिले आएर चाहिँ भर्खरदेखि चाहिँ यो बहुतै नराम्रो शब्द भएको छ र जति नराम्रा कुरा छ नराम्राका परिचय चाहिँ DEI भएको बनाइएको छ। जतिवटा क्रिटिकल रेस थ्योरी भन्ने कुरा थियो, कसरी रेसका आधारमा यो समाजमा भिन्नता ल्याउने व्यवहार गरिन्थ्यो पहिलेको त्यो विषय पढाइन्थ्यो, त्यसमा पनि त्यही लगेर जोड्ने खालको यहाँको बुझाइ बनाइएको छ भन्ने कुरा गरिदिनुहुन्छ। प्लिज गो अहेड।
Okay, so but diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, Bowen, to get your citizenship, you had to study things like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just in the very first lines of the Declaration of Independence, we have, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And I mean, diversity, that when people say, "Oh, I don't like diversity," what they really mean is, well, they don't like people of other races than white. But they seem to forget sometimes that there are many kinds of diversity. There's I mean, for example, disability. And disabilities, you can inherit a disability or you can acquire it. And one way that people acquire disabilities is through injuries. So for example, veterans who come back with PTSD or lost limbs or other damage, veterans programs to get them back into society and help them readjust. That's a form of diversity and inclusion. And if you say that, thank our military, thank them for their service, we value our military, and then you say, oh, we don't like DEI, well, then either you're forgetting exactly what DEI means, or you really don't value the military that much.
Thank you. Now उहाँले भन्नुहुँदैछ DEI भनेको चाहिँ के सबै क्षमता भएका मान्छेलाई एक किसिमको मौका दिने एउटा व्यवस्था हो। अर्थात् यो व्यवस्थाले के गर्छ भने मान्छे संविधानमै यो लेखेको छ अल म्यान आर क्रिएटेड इक्वलमा सबै मान्छे चाहिँ बराबर क्षमता भएका छन् भने सबैलाई मौका पाउनुपर्छ भन्ने भएको छ र DEIले के गर्छ भन्दा सबै मान्छेलाई बराबर मौका दिनुपर्छ भन्ने व्यवस्था हो। किन सबै मान्छेको क्षमता आफ्नो आफ्नो लेभलको हुन सक्छ। तर जस्तो उदाहरण भनौँ, कोही मान्छेहरू सैन्यमा गर्नुभएको हुन्छ, उहाँ फर्केर आउनुभएको हुन्छ, उहाँ कतिवटा हात खुट्टाहरू भाँचिएको अथवा कुनै अङ्गभङ्ग भएको हुनसक्छ। उहाँहरू अब समाजमा आइसके पछाडि उहाँहरूको क्षमता त सबल मान्छेको जस्तो हुँदैन, अलिकति कमजोरी केही हुनसक्छ। तर उसको कमजोरीपनले के काम गर्न सक्छ त्यसलाई ख्यालमा राखेर चाहिँ उनलाई पनि मौका दिने व्यवस्थालाई DEI भनिन्छ। तर त्यो DEIलाई मन नपराउने भने मेरो आर्मी हाम्रो मिलिटरीलाई मनपर्छ भने हामी धन्यवाद भन्ने कुरामा चाहिँ भयङ्करै दुई किसिमको ठुलो त्यो भनाइमा चाहिँ ढाँट जस्तो देखिन्छ, ढाँटेर भनेको छद्म बेसी जस्तो देखिन्छ भन्ने कुरा उहाँले गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ। Thank you. Do you want to add anything else here, Danny?
Can I add something? So just to translate it a little bit to the classroom, a lot of people talk about equity and being equal, and sometimes it's misinterpreted. And there is a great graphic, and I know that Neil has seen this before, and we've talked about it, and I've seen it lots of places. I use it and talk about it, and I think it's a great illustration. So when you think of equal, you think of, let's say, children, and they're trying to watch a baseball game over a fence.
I've got the picture if you want me to share a screen.
Yeah, you can if you want. And there are 3 equal boxes, and the 3 children are standing on those. But those children are different heights. Some can see over and see the game, others cannot. Equity is not about providing the same services. Equity is about meeting children where they are in the classroom. So in that same scenario, where I have different sized children trying to see over the fence to see the ball game, I'm going to provide them with different sized boxes to meet their needs. And this is exactly, and I think this is a misunderstanding with a lot of people. We have so many different children who come to our schools. Some are hungry. Some don't know the language and they're just learning the language. Some have special needs. Some have medical needs. And so we are providing through DEI and particularly the equity part, we're meeting children where they are and providing what they need to be successful in the classroom, which then relates to being successful in life.
Thank you, David. Now let me explain whatever you told. Let me tell that one now. उहाँले equity र equal दुईटा कुरा शब्द जो छन् बराबर र आफ्नो क्षमता अनुसार भनेको जब यहाँ पिक्चरमा दुईटा छ, एउटा equity छ, अर्को equality छ। अब यो पहिलेको equality भनेको सबैलाई बराबर अग्लो ठाउँमा राख्दिने भन्ने। एउटाको हाइट यति कम्ती छ, अर्काको अलि अल्गो छ, एउटाको अल्गो छ। यो तीनटालाई बराबरको मौका दिँदाखेरि भने के भयो त भन्दाखेरि त्यो सबैभन्दा अल्गो मान्छेले सजिलैसँग देख्न सक्ने भयो, तर होचो मान्छे जो छ त्यो होचो मान्छेले देख्न सकेन। तर equity को कुरा गर्ने हो भने चाहिँ त्यो होचो मान्छे अलि अग्लो ठाउँबाट र अर्कोलाई अल्गो मान्छेलाई त्यही ठाउँबाट गऱ्यो भने सबैले एउटा एकै किसिमको ज्ञान हेर्न सक्छ। त्यो किसिमको equity भन्ने कुरा आउँछ। र यसरी हामीले चाहिँ DEI भनेको चाहिँ सबै आफ्नो क्षमता हेरेर उसको उसले कति काम गर्न सक्छ त्यो किसिमको सुविधा दिने व्यवस्थालाई चाहिँ equity भनिन्छ। DEI को equity को कुरा आउँछ। So thank you. So maybe and one of you, whosoever want to answer this question, that's okay for me. What is the logic behind? So maybe you may not be able to answer this one. What is the logic behind our current administration to remove DEI from our whole our school systems? What they want to achieve? Can you tell that one, or you cannot tell? That's up to you now.
Debbie, you want it or should I?
Well, I mean, I'll just jump in, and then Neil, I know that you'll jump in with your opinion, and trying to get into someone's brain, I have to read and understand. And so, I think a lot of people who want to get rid of DEI feel that others who, which I say, may need that different size box, we may need to meet them where they are, that they're being given special treatment. And quite frankly, I think that some of these people want to go back in time 50, 100 years. And, they want this society that was here, this white community that was America. And they feel that, jobs are being taken away from them, or opportunities are being taken away from them because DEI, as Neil said, has been demonized. And it's, they're calling these quotas, and they spin it really nicely, and it sounds great when they talk about it. But it's not. I mean, DEI is not about quotas. It's not about giving jobs just so that you can tick off a box, and it's not the most qualified. But DEI is many things, meeting students where they are, but then also giving opportunities to those who might not have had them in the past, or more recently been denied them for various reasons.
Thank you. Let me explain that. Let me summarize that. मैले DEI चाहिँ किन चाहिँ हटाएको होला त अहिलेको वर्तमान सरकारले भन्ने कुरा मैले सोधेको थिएँ। यसको उहाँ भन्नुहुन्छ, अब अर्काले सोचेको कुरा मैले भन्नु पर्दाखेरि सायद धेरैजना मान्छेहरू यो देशमा छन् अहिले जो चाहिँ सरकारमा छन्, उनीहरूले चाहिँ गोरा जातिका मान्छेले मात्रै सुविधा पाउनुपर्छ भन्ने खालको मान्यता राखेर अगाडि आजभन्दा 60-70 वर्ष अगाडि जति बेला अमेरिकामा अधिकांश यहाँको जनमानस गोराहरू थिए, त्यो समयमा जस्तो त्यस्तो खालको बनाउन खोजेको र उहाँहरूलाई फलाना यस्तो कुरा दे उस्तो कुरा दे भनेर बहाना बनाउने र मान्छेहरूलाई धेरै राम्रो मिठो बनाएर बाहिर सुनाउने। तर यसबाट त्यस्तो कुनै पनि केही हुँदैन। तर के चाहिँ हो भने सबै विद्यार्थीहरूलाई, सबै मान्छेहरूलाई चाहिँ उसको क्षमता अनुसारको सुविधा दिनुपर्छ भन्ने व्यवस्था गरिएको हो। DEI-ले त्यो मात्रै गर्छ, अरू कुरा गर्ने चाहिँ होइन। तर अहिले गोरा जातिले चाहिँ मात्रै सुविधा पाउनुपर्छ भन्ने खालको मान्यता राख्नका लागि DEI-को खेदो मचाएको हो भन्ने कुरा उहाँले गर्नुभयो। Neil, do you want to add anything else in this one?
Yeah, when they want to remove DEI, you like me, you have kids. They're growing up now, but when they were younger, every now and then they would put out a statement that you just say, when you grow up, you'll learn better, like, oh, I hate vegetables. I don't like any vegetables, and then when they grow up and they learn more, eventually they grow out of it. When I hear, everybody just try as fast as they can to see, oh yeah, let's eliminate DEI, and they're trying to, to be more extreme than the rest of their party. Like, hey, let's eliminate DEI here. Oh yeah, well watch me. Let's eliminate it here too. It just sounds like like 10 to 12-year-old, and it's basically that level of understanding, because when as I said earlier, they don't really know, they haven't really thought it through. It's basically at a at a 10-year-old's level of analysis when they say what they want to get rid of it all. So yeah.
All right, thank you. मैले निलाई यही कुरा सोधेको थिएँ। उहाँ भन्नुहुन्छ जस्तै मसिना नानीहरूले अहिले सब्जी खान मन लाग्दैन, फलान्दो खान मन लाग्दैन, विभिन्न कुराकानी गर्छन्। जब उनीहरूको अलि माथि उमेर पुगिसकेपछि, जब उनीहरूलाई ज्ञान आउँछ, ज्ञान भइसकेपछि म सबै किसिमको सब्जी खान्छु किन मेरो स्वास्थ्यका लागि राम्रो गर्छ भन्ने कुरा आउँछ र खान थाल्छन्। हो यस्तै अज्ञानताका कारणले उनीहरूले यो कारण ऊ कारण भनेर देखाएको मात्रै हो, DEI हुँदैन भन्ने कुरा। तर ज्ञान हुने हो भने, यो आफ्नोबाट किसिमको मूर्खता हट्दै जाने हो भने यो DEI आवश्यकता छ भन्ने उहाँहरूलाई पनि आउँछ र त्यसलाई फेरि मान्नुहुन्छ भन्ने कुरा उहाँले बुझ्नुभयो। So I have a few questions I'll take from the audience, then I have other questions which is a big part of our discussion today. Leela Dhakal is asking, is Catholic school better than charter school regardless faith-based? Which one is better if we are looking for innovative approaches? So is there any answer for this one?
I'll let Debbie take that, since she's been in Catholic school and she's worked and been public schools too.
Again, I'm going to be the proponent of public education. And I think what we're doing in public schools is innovative. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Education Foundation and some of the grants that we've given out, which we've been able to help some teachers do some very innovative things in the classroom. I think if I'm looking at charter and Catholic, I don't even feel that I'm qualified to answer that. Right now, I've been a substitute teacher in public schools for the past about 15 years. And as I said, I'm working on my master's, and I will be teaching in public school. I've not been in Catholic school for a very long time. I've not been in a charter school for a very long time. But I have been around a lot of public education, Licking Heights, Reynoldsburg. I wrote about Whitehall for about 16 years for the Whitehall News, and I wrote about Bexley Public Schools for about 8 years. I'll tell you, public education has some very innovative and incredible programming.
Thank you. लीलाजी, उहाँले तपाईँको प्रश्नको जवाब सिधा त गर्नु भएन। म क्याथोलिक र चार्टर स्कुलमा म छुइनँ, त्यसको बारेमा म जान्दिनँ। तर जहाँसम्म सरकारी स्कुल छ, सरकारी स्कुल भनेको धेरै नयाँ कुरा गर्न सक्ने र यस्ता किसिमको इनोभेटिभ भएकाले गर्दाखेरि यहाँको बारेमा म जान्दछु र अरू धेरैवटा स्कुलमा यहाँ काम गरेकाले म यो कुरा भन्न सक्छु, अरू कुरा चाहिँ म भन्न सक्दिनँ भन्नुभयो। Anyway, thank you. We'll come back to the next question in a minute. But now is the big question, Neil, to you. Then I'll come back to Devi. We already brought a little bit about Education Foundation, but before that, I'll go to Neil. So, let me talk about myself. I came from a country where the king was the one who decides everything else. Like all of a sudden in the year 1990, he thought that only one kind of people should be living in that country. People with one faith, that is Buddhism, only should be living in that country. People who look like him only be the citizen of that country. Then he decided to remove 1/6 of the citizen from that country. One of them was me. I was in elementary school. I mean, third grade at that time. So the king removed me out of my country because he thought that way. And at that time, people used to believe that king can do everything else. But people did not know how much of a tax we had to pay, because I have no clue, because that is, people thought that, okay, tax is the part of the thing we have to pay. They even used to pay a tax for a chicken when they have a chicken in their backyard. They have to count and pay that, which I heard a few months ago about that, and I was kind of shocked. People need to go and count how many chickens, then you have to pay tax per number of chickens. That was the system of a government in Bhutan, which is ruled by the king. So we came from there, and whatever facilities come from the government, people used to think that's given by the government. They did not know how that government is been funded. So keeping that concept aside, I'm talking primarily with the Bhutanese community only here. Now let's come to Reynoldsburg. Can you tell us, in very, very layman terms, to understand how does the public school are funded in the US, particularly Reynoldsburg?
Okay. Well, first of all, the U.S., as you know, is composed of 50 states and some territories, and each of the states gets to decide how they fund and otherwise run their schools. So in Ohio and some other states, it's done primarily through property tax. So in Reynoldsburg, about 30% or so comes from property tax, and all and in Reynoldsburg, so about 50% comes from the state of Ohio budget. But not every state does it that way. I was at a conference just yesterday with educators from all over the nation, and I talked to a person from Nebraska, and they found out that, wow, you use property tax to fund schools in Ohio? They just don't do that in Nebraska. They're like, why would it seems like that would cause a lot of problems? And we're like, yes, it does. It's not a good way in my opinion. So yeah, it varies from state to state. Here in Ohio, about 30% of it comes from property tax, about 50%, or not in Ohio, in Reynoldsburg, about 50% comes from state funding. In richer districts, less comes from the state of Ohio and more comes from the local property tax. Here in Reynoldsburg, we also get about 6 or 8% from an income tax. Not every school district has one of those, but a few do, and we do. And then other funding comes from various other things.
So okay, मैले उहाँलाई सोधेको थिएँ, मेरो क्वेसन थियो जस्तै भुटानमा राजाले सकेसम्म हामीलाई ट्याक्स लिन्थे, मान्छेलाई इभन कुखुराको पनि ट्याक्स लाग्थ्यो अरे भुटान, त्यस्तो देश भुटान भनेको। अहिले पनि त्यस्तै छ होला, म जान्दिनँ अहिले त। त्यस्तो अपराधी राजा भएको देशबाट हामी आएको, र हामीलाई थाहा थिएन कसरी राजाले हामीलाई ट्याक्स लाएर हाम्रो सबै लुटेको, ब्रह्मलुट गरेको हुन्थ्यो। तर यहाँ आएपछि सबै कुरा हामी यहाँ देख्छौँ। र उहाँ ओहायोको चाहिँ अब त ट्याक्स स्कुललाई कसरी फन्ड गर्छ भन्ने मैले क्वेसन सोधेको थिएँ। मैले देशभरिको, अमेरिका ठुलो देश भएकाले गर्दा प्रत्येक सिटी, प्रत्येक स्टेटमा आफ्नो आफ्नो तरिकाले गर्ने कुरा हुन्छ। तर जहाँसम्म ओहायो, त्यसमा पनि रेनल्ड्सबर्गमा कुरा गर्दा चाहिँ रेनल्ड्सबर्गको जम्मा 30% पैसा चाहिँ स्कुल चलाउन लागि प्रपर्टी ट्याक्सबाट आउँछ, जहाँ कि हाम्रो घरको सम्पत्ति जो हो, घरको भाडा भनौँ, घरको जुन छ त्यो त्यहाँको प्रपर्टी, घर मात्रै एउटा उदाहरण, अरू पनि जम्मा प्रपर्टी जुन सम्पत्ति हुन्छ यहाँबाट आएको हुन्छ भने 50% चाहिँ स्टेटले दिन्छ यो पैसा स्कुलका लागि, र साथसाथै 6% भनेको पैसा चाहिँ अरू विभिन्न इन्कम ट्याक्सबाट पनि आउँछ भनेर कुरा उहाँले गर्नुभयो। थ्याङ्क यू। So one more question to you, Neil. What percent of the money comes from the federal government? Then I'll ask for the follow-up question to you in a minute.
Okay. I'm going to have to, while Debbie answers the question, I'm going to have to look at at our 5-year forecast and grab that percentage. But I can say what kind of money comes from the federal government.
Neil, I had to look that up earlier today for the state report card.
Oh, all right, Debbie. I yield
Debbie, you can answer
to
that.
former board member and President Debbie Dunlap. Okay.
Well, and you were looking at how much is federal funding. I kind of took notes. So Neil was right, about 50% on the last state report card, which would have been, the not last fiscal year, but last school year. 50% came from the state. 28.7% or nearly 30% was local funding. Federal funding was 11.3%, and that was about $13 million.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll come back to this one because I just read this one because we're going back to the Department of Education defunding all those part. So before we'll come to that one, when Bhagi Baral is writing, Bhutan, talking about Bhutan, they used to tax people for buying a radio, like having a radio in the house. If you have a radio, you have to pay tax per month basis for playing a radio set in your house. So that is the country that we came from. So even for radio, you have to pay tax. Even chicken, you have to pay tax. I think that system is still there. I really don't know. But Debbie, now let's go to the next question about which I really wanted to talk to you about Reynoldsburg Education Foundation. So before I start, I also thank you for establishing that. You are co-founder of that one, and that has already made an impact. So I want you to talk about why you have started, what is that and what you are doing, all these three things. I'm seriously very, very thankful for the work that you have done. I know it, but a lot of our viewers, they don't know about it. Can you talk about that one?
Yeah, so the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation is independent from the school district, and it is a non-profit organization recognized by, again, the federal government and the state of Ohio. Most school districts have something like this external group that raises money for the school district to help fill in some of these gaps where state, local, and federal funding leaves off. There are a lot of strings tied to all that state, local, and federal funding. Not many strings or requirements are tied to ours. So this was about 6 years ago, and my good friend Margaret Mary Lusney and I decided to co-found this together. One of the last school districts, probably in the Columbus metro area, to do this. And just to add on to what Neil was saying, um, our local funding is reliant, or state funding, I'm sorry, is reliant, it's local, on property taxes, right? And so if you live in a wealthier district with expensive homes, you're going to get more money. And in fact, more than 20 years ago, Neil, you may remember exactly how many, in the DeRolf case, the Ohio Supreme Court said that the way we funded public education in Ohio was illegal, and said the state legislature had to come up with a way to correct this. Well, they never did. We have had a couple of governors who have tried, but no one has ever fixed this. So the Education Foundation holds several different events to raise money so that we can help contribute to the good of our school district. We do that in two ways. One is giving grants to teachers in the classroom so they can have their their innovative ideas come to life. And the other is student scholarships. So, for example, there are a number of eighth graders that cannot go to the Washington, D.C. trip because they're economically disadvantaged and cannot afford it. And so we have been able to hand out, I think I'm looking at my numbers, it's been over $9,000 to date in scholarships to students so that they can go to the Washington, D.C. trip. We have awarded over $16,000 in grants to teachers in the classroom so that they can do innovative things that they cannot do with money that we get locally from the state or federally.
थ्याङ्क यू। मैले उहाँलाई सोधेको थिएँ रेनोल्ड्सबर्ग एजुकेसन फाउन्डेसन भनेको के हो भनेर। उहाँले भन्नुहुन्छ यो चाहिँ जति हाम्रा स्कुलमा विद्यार्थीहरूलाई टिचरहरूलाई सामान्य कुरा गर्न आवश्यक परेको हुन्छ यस्ता कुरा गर्नको लागि हेल्प गर्ने एउटा सहयोग गर्ने एउटा संस्था हो। यो चाहिँ उहाँ डेभी, क्यान यू टेल मी द नेम अफ युर फ्रेन्ड? आई फर्गेट नाउ।
Margaret Mary Lusney.
मार्गरेट मेरी लजनी, उहाँ दुईजना भएर आज 6 वर्ष अगाडि खोल्नु भएको थियो। यो चाहिँ नन प्रफिट हो, स्कुलदेखि छुट्टै संस्था हो। तर यो संस्थाले चाहिँ हाम्रो रेनोल्ड्सबर्ग सिटी स्कुलमा विभिन्न किसिमका प्रोग्रामहरू गरेर चाहिँ विद्यार्थीहरूलाई र शिक्षकहरूलाई सहयोग गर्ने काम गर्छ। उहाँहरूले विभिन्न इभेन्टहरू गर्नुहुन्छ जसको कारणले चाहिँ पैसा सङ्कलन गर्नुहुन्छ। साथसाथै टिचरहरूलाई ग्रान्ट दिनुहुन्छ जहाँ स्कुलमा टिचरहरूले नयाँ नयाँ तरिकालाई प्रयोग गरेर स्कुल विद्यार्थीहरूलाई पढाउन सहयोग गर्नुहुन्छ। 8th ग्रेडमा प्रत्येक वर्ष 8 क्लासका विद्यार्थीहरूलाई वासिङटन डिसी पठाउने यहाँको चलन छ। त्यो चलनमा कतिजना बाबाआमाले आफ्नो नानीलाई पैसा दिएर पढाउन नसक्नुहुन्छ आर्थिक कठिनाइको कारणले गर्दा, त्यस्तो विद्यार्थीहरूलाई उहाँहरूले पैसा दिएर सहयोग गर्नुहुन्छ। अहिलेसम्म उहाँहरूले $9,000 चाहिँ त्यो 8 क्लासका विद्यार्थीहरूलाई डिसी पठाउनु लागि भनेर उहाँहरूले खर्च गरिसकेको अवस्था छ भने $16,000 चाहिँ टिचर्सहरूलाई ग्रान्ट पनि दिइसक्नु भएको छ। So you also gave some scholarship to students as well, right, for higher education, is that right?
So we are relatively new. We just kicked off our scholarship program a year and a half ago, maybe two. So our 8th grade scholarships are the first. We did participate with the city and gave some money at the Martin Luther King Jr. breakfast for one of the scholarships for that, and that is for higher education. And then we have funded the Phyllis Mayberry scholarship, which the district has given out to a student with special needs in honor of Phyllis Mayberry, one of our amazing bus drivers.
थ्याङ्क यू। साथसाथै उहाँले भन्नुहुन्छ उहाँले पहिले आर्ट्स क्लासको लागि दिने गरेको र हायर एजुकेसन जाने विद्यार्थीहरूलाई पनि स्कलरसिप दिने गर्नुहुन्छ। सायद यसपालि एकजना हाम्रै बहिनीले पनि स्कलरसिप पाउनु भएको छ, मार्टिन लुथर किङ जुनियर ब्रेकफास्टमा यहाँ रेनोल्ड्सबर्गमा सिटीसँग मिलेर गर्नुभएको थियो भनेर भन्नुहुन्छ। थ्याङ्क यू. So before I go to next question, I'm getting Rudra Basnet is asking, sir, but Bhutan public schools are way better than American public school now. रुद्रजी यो होइन, तपाईँले जो भन्नुहुँदैछ म पनि त्यहाँको प्रोडक्ट हो। आई टोटली डिसएग्री विथ यू। भुटानको पब्लिक एजुकेसन सिस्टम राम्रो छैन, किनकि त्यहाँ पनि बहुत धेरै पब्लिक प्राइभेट स्कुल छन्। म त्यहाँका साथीहरूसँग बार बार गफ गरिरहेको हुन्छु र अहिले पनि कुट्ने चलन छ त्यहाँनिर, पहिले कुट्ने चलन पुरै थियो। सो आइम जस्ट टेलिङ द रुद्र बस्नेत द्याट द पब्लिक एजुकेसन सिस्टम इन भुटान, बिकज आई वेन्ट टु द्याट स्कुल, the corporal punishment was one of the biggest one. Like, let me tell about it because it may not be known to you. When I went to school there, one of the languages that we were forced to learn was Dzongkha, the language of a king of Bhutan. The language of Ngalung is one of the group which is ruling the Bhutan. Their language we are forced to learn. And if we cannot pronounce, if we cannot read properly, they will beat you like I don't know how do I tell that no human can do that. When the so-called teacher can open, they can do whatever. I mean, literally, I mean, like one of my friend right now, he's in Harrisburg. His earplug was pulled when we were in 3rd grade, and we were seeing the white skin coming out from here when this pulled up. And those kind of things are very regular by Lopen, which is called Dzongkha. It's a teacher of the king's language who had been taught, forced on us. And if you don't know how to read, how to pronounce that properly, their job was to beat. And that's how the education system in Bhutan is run. And that has never been a good, and it will. I don't think that's anything because I'm not there for the last 35 years. I really don't know what is there right now. But I talked to some of my friends who are still there in the country. They wish they could have this education system in that country even today. But anyway, let's go to the next thing. तपाईँ जो हेर्नुहुन्छ प्लिज क्वेसन राखिदिनु होला. We were almost out of time now. Let me ask you the next question now. Neil will go from you. Currently, we are hearing every single day President Trump is threatening to defund or to eliminate the U.S. Board of Education Department, U.S. Education Department, Federal Education Department. If and when, I really don't know, I won't say whether or not, but what will be the impact in our school in Reynoldsburg if it is eliminated? Can you talk about that?
It is hard to even imagine. Debbie mentioned a few minutes ago that the amount we get from federal funds is, $13 million in the last year, correct?
Yes.
And it's about 11% of our budget. You may have heard that with the failure of the operating levy last November, we're struggling to cut 8.3 or to 8.5 million in our budget. And even as we speak, the superintendent and her team are making lists and deciding which of your kids' teachers we have to let go, and what other cuts we make, what things we don't repair, because we have to prioritize keeping the buildings warm and safe, but we can't make them look nice. And that's so cutting $13 million out, that's going to be just a complete disaster. Now, it's been said that, oh no, don't worry about it, the federal money that comes from the Department of Education, it's not a problem. It's just going to go to another department, and they'll make sure that everything seamlessly comes to it the way it always has. But you can't just break one system and then hope that the next one is in place to make it work. I've also heard it said like, no, we're giving the control back to the states so that the money, it'll just be up to the states to distribute it. But the problem with that is that every state does things differently. And one of the reasons that the federal Department of Education was created was that some states were not willing to provide, a quality education, equal education for all. And so then, that's where federal departments come in. So even if, your state won't do it, then we will make sure that, you have the funds to do what needs to be done and we'll make and Debbie, you mentioned strings attached. It's also called accountability. You got to account for where you spend that money. You got to make sure that it's not being misallocated, that you're spending it on educating kids with whatever needs they have, so that everybody can get access to that education. But if it goes to the states, it's probably going to get misallocated. I mean, before the Board of Education existed, or the Federal Department of Education, after the Brown versus Board of Education decision, there were some school districts in Virginia that completely shut their school districts and never held school for like 2 years, rather than providing education for everybody. And even here in Ohio, with state money that is constitutionally forbidden from going outside public schools, it's already more than, I mean, it's $1 billion a year unbudgeted going to private schools. And if that's just happening with our state government money, I think any federal money that comes to Ohio and said, okay, here you go, Ohio, you distribute it, it's going to get sent to places where there's no accountability.
Thank you. Let me tell that in a gist. So उहाँलाई मैले सोधेको थिएँ, राष्ट्रपति ट्रम्पले भन्नुहुन्छ हर दिन म डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ एजुकेसन चाहिँ हटाउँछु भनेर, फेडरल डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ एजुकेसन हटाउँछु भनेर, यसको इम्प्याक्ट के हुन्छ भन्दा, जस्तै अहिले $11 मिलियन हाम्रो रेनल्ड्सबर्गमा त्यो पैसा फेडरल सरकारबाट आउँदैछ। त्यो पैसा नआउँदाखेरि उहाँहरूले भन्नु सजिलै स्टेटबाट आइहाल्छ नि, काम चलिहाल्छ नि भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ विगतमा यस्ता खालका समय भएका छन् कि कतिवटा स्टेटले चाहिँ आफ्नो तरिकाले काम गर्ने, स्टेटले कति ठाउँमा दिने कतिले नदिने, तर फेडरलबाट पैसा आएको खण्डमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्दा त्यो पैसासँग नियम पनि आउँछ, स्ट्रिङ अट्याच भनेको नियम पनि आउँछ, रुल पनि त्यहाँ आउँछ। जो जसरी खर्च गर्नु भनेको छ त्यही तरिकाले खर्च गर्नुपर्छ। त्यसको अर्थ चाहिँ के भन्दा स्कुलमा सबै देशभरिका सबै स्कुलमा एक एक किसिमको नियम लागू हुन्छ र त्यो पैसालाई प्रयोग गरेर जो हुनुपर्ने त्यसबाट जे हुनुपर्ने काम हुन्छ। होइन भने कतिवटा स्टेटलाई पहिले भर्जिनियामा त्यति बेला कतिवटा स्कुलले 2 वर्षमा स्कुलै बन्द गरेका छन् त्यहाँका स्टेटहरूले, किन त्यति बेला फेडरल व्यवस्था थिएन। र फेडरल व्यवस्था भइसके पछाडि यी कामहरू हुने गर्छन्। त्यो नहुनुको पछाडि भने ओहायोमै पनि कतिवटा स्टेटबाट आएको कुराहरू, कति स्टेटले दिने पैसाहरू रोकेर गरिब दुखीका नानीहरू, जो ESL पढ्ने नानीहरूलाई असर पर्न सक्ने सम्भावना देखिन्छ भन्नुहुँदैछ। So Debbie, now we're almost towards the end of our time. Can you talk about special education system and the federal funding? How is that related? If it were to cut, what will happen to our ESL students, special need students, and many of those part of it?
Well, I may defer to Neil on this one because I've been out for a little bit, and I think Neil has his finger on the pulse of this, because certainly, those economically disadvantaged, our English language learners and special ed, all that money comes to fund those programs from the federal government. And so I'm going to pass this one over to Neil, because I think you can answer this a little bit more specifically.
Neil, go ahead.
Okay. So as for like the like right here in our schools, what will happen and what won't, that's a little bit beyond the level of my the 30,000 view on policy that we take. But I would recommend that you ask Kelly Brazo, our director of special education, and her team for particulars. But I want to talk about, you may have heard it said, oh, diversity is our strength, and you wonder, well, what exactly does that mean? But by including everybody and not turning anybody away, and it is our job to teach everybody how they come to us, and it's our job to figure out how to do it. That, I think, is where the strength comes in over private schools that can choose whoever they want to. Well, they can narrow their focus to just exactly the kind of students that they can teach the best. But when you have to teach a student that you can't just teach in the same way as everybody else, then you got to find other ways to do it. And sometimes those other ways that you find are good not only for that particular student, but they're good for everybody. And a more concrete example is, you know what curb cuts are?
I don't know. You have to explain that.
Okay, so if you're walking on the sidewalk, right, and you come to the crosswalk, and there's a ramp cut into the sidewalk so that you can gradually roll down. And a lot of people, I mean, they've been around for their entire lifetime, and they figure, oh yeah, it's just a convenience. It's so that I can walk my bicycle across there more easily, or it's so that I can do a stroller more easily. But no, I mean, those were designed after the Americans with Disabilities Act for people in wheelchairs, and it works so that people in wheelchairs can go past the curbs, but it's also so convenient for bicycle riders and stroller pushers and even just ordinary walkers who prefer to do that. So in education too, things that you have to design for the most extreme, unusual cases, they force you to have better education for everybody.
थ्याङ्क यू। मेरो क्वेसनको सिधा आन्सर गर्न चाहिँ उहाँले चाहनु भएन, तर उहाँ के भन्नुहुन्छ भने पब्लिक एजुकेसन प्राइभेट एजुकेसन छ भने चाहिँ उहाँहरूले एक किसिमका मान्छेहरूलाई मात्रै म पढाउँछु भन्न पाउनुहुन्छ, किनभने उहाँको निजी स्रोतबाट आएको हुन्छ। तर पब्लिक सरकारी विद्यालय भनेको चाहिँ सबैलाई पढाउनु पर्ने हुन्छ र सबै नानीहरू कुनै धेरै क्षमता भएका हुन्छन्, कुनै कम्ती क्षमता भएका हुन्छन्, ती सबैलाई आवश्यकता हुने उनीहरूको आवश्यकता अनुसार हामीले व्यवस्था गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। त्यो गर्दा त्यो नानीलाई मात्रै फाइदा हुँदैन, तर सबैलाई फाइदा हुन्छ। किनभने जब त्यो नानी धेरै क्षमता भएको सानो बालक छ, पिछा पढेर ठुलो भइसकेपछि जब समाजमा जान्छ, उसले सबै किसिमका मान्छेहरू, सबै किसिमका व्यवस्थाहरूलाई भेट्ने भएका कारणले गर्दाखेरि उसलाई पनि आवश्यक पर्छ। उहाँले एउटा कर्भ कटिङ भनेर इक्जाम्पल दिनुभयो, जस्तो कि कतिवटा बाटोमा कुदाउँदै गर्दा सानो बाटो हुन्छ, त्यहाँ मान्छेलाई हिँड्न सजिलो बनाएको हुन्छ, त्यसलाई हेर्दाखेरि कसैलाई मजा लागेर बनाएको के हो भन्ने कुरा भए तापनि त्यो चाहिँ अमेरिकन डिसेबिलिटी एक्ट कानुन बनियो अमेरिकामा, सबै अपाङ्ग असहाय भएका स्पेसल निड भएका मान्छेहरूको लागि पनि विशेष ठाउँ हुनुपर्छ भनिसकेपछि उहाँहरूलाई जान सजिलो भयो, तर अरूलाई पनि त्यसले धेरै सहायता पुग्यो भन्ने कुरा एउटा उदाहरण पनि दिनुभयो। थ्याङ्क यू निल। Now, before we end, we are almost at the time now. Before we end, Devi, I have one more question to you, especially going back to our Reynoldsburg Education Foundation. There are some of our viewers maybe want to support that education foundation work, because I really love the work that you have been doing for the last several years. And if there's somebody willing to support, because it's local, this is supporting our schools, it's supporting our kids, is there's a way, you never told me, but I just wanted to bring this up, is there's a way that people can come out and support your program?
Yes, thank you for asking. So first of all, I would say and advise people to go to our website. Very easy, www.reynoldsburgeducation.org. Super easy. Spend a little bit of time there. You can see what we're all about. They can support us financially. There are places there that you can give. You could support by attending one of our events and our fundraisers. That raises money to give back to our students and to our teachers in the classroom. Or you can decide to volunteer at one of the events or serve on our board, volunteer serving board. So many different ways that you can support the Education Foundation.
थ्याङ्क यू। मैले उहाँलाई सोधेको थिएँ, रेनल्ड्सबर्ग एजुकेसन फाउन्डेसन छ, उहाँले बहुत धेरै ठुलो काम गरिराख्नु भएको छ हाम्रै लोकल आफ्ना नानीहरूलाई, हाम्रै स्कुललाई काम गरिराख्नु भएको छ, र तपाईँ हामी कसैलाई पनि त्यसमा केही काम गर्न मन छ र यसलाई सपोर्ट गर्न मन तपाईँहरूलाई हामीलाई कसैलाई लाग्छ भने रेनल्ड्सबर्ग एजुकेसन फाउन्डेसन भनेर छ, उहाँले निलले तानिदिनु भएको छ वेबसाइट अगाडि स्क्रिनमा, र तपाईँलाई कसैलाई त्यसमा मन लाग्छ भने तपाईँले वेबसाइटमा जान सक्नुहुन्छ, वेबसाइटमा गएर उहाँहरूलाई सपोर्ट गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ। त्यो भन्दै गर्दा मैले यहाँनिर तपाईँलाई देखाएको कारण चाहिँ, यसको पछाडिको कारण चाहिँ के हो भने, कोही साथीहरू तपाईँ यहाँ हुनुहुन्छ, लोकल्ली केही गर्न चाहनुहुन्छ भने, उहाँहरूले मलाई भनेको नि लोकल्ली केही गर्न चाहनुहुन्छ भने एउटा मौका पनि हो, यहीँ लोकल्ली हाम्रै सिटीमा, हाम्रै स्कुलमा, हाम्रै नानीहरूको लागि हुने खालको एउटा मौका पनि हो, र यो गर्नका लागि ठाउँ छ। स्पेसली मसिना भाइ बहिनीहरूलाई 11-12मा पढ्ने नानीहरूलाई छ भने भोलिन्टियर गर्ने ठुलो मौका पनि हो, र त्यहाँ गएर गर्नु पछाडि तपाईँले इभन हाई स्कुल किड्स क्यान भोलिन्टियर, राइट, सो द्याट दे क्यान गेट भोलिन्टियर आवर्स एज वेल। सो भोलिन्टियर आवर्स पनि पाउनुहुन्छ। यस्तो धेरैवटा कुरामा सहायता पनि पुग्छ, नानीहरूलाई सिक्ने मौका पनि हुन्छ। तपाईँ वेबसाइटमा जानु होला, रेनल्ड्सबर्ग एजुकेसन फाउन्डेसनको वेबसाइटमा गएर तपाईँहरूले सहयोग गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ। सो the last question to both of you, then we'll end our program. If you think this is more political, if you don't want to answer, that's totally fine, but I'm going to ask anyway. Currently, with the current administration making so many different laws, executive orders against immigrants and refugee families, many parents, like every single day, I get 5 to 10 calls from across the country, not only Reynoldsburg, asking me several different questions which were not even imagined at least even a few months before. one of the citizen, U.S. citizen, a naturalized citizen who came from a refugee camp like me and became a citizen without any kind of criminal or any kind of backgrounds. He went to a diverse license place to renew his driver's license, and his citizenship certificate is confiscated by the driver license individual, the employee of the driver license there, here in Ohio, I mean, very near in Reynoldsburg. So with that, so much of fear is there in many people. I don't want to say all, and people might tell that's a fear mongering kind of things people can tell. But I myself is also fearful at times, not all the time, but like, why should I be doing these things? So in this environment, do you want to say anything else to the viewers who are maybe watching from many different parts of the world right now? What do you think people should do? What is this, in your opinion? And then we'll conclude with that one.
Okay. Debbie, you want to start or should I?
Well, I'll start. And so have a voice. That is one of the beautiful things about this country. We live in a democracy. Everyone has a voice. And by speaking up and showing the beautiful fabric that makes up this country, by using your voice to talk about equity and diversity and the strength that we have as a country that is based in that equity and that diversity in our country. I think that is the strongest thing that we can do. Sometimes it's difficult. I think we've all been through some of that. We have some family members and you don't want to bring it up, or in friend groups or what have you. But I think that as we're seeing across the country, people are standing up, they're holding up signs, they're joining, live streams like this and other talk shows to say that we are as strong as we are diverse. And we need to use our voices to be able to advocate for our freedoms and for the freedoms of all in this country.
थ्याङ्क यू लेट मी टेल दिस थिङ मैले उहाँलाई सोधेको थिएँ अहिलेको अवस्थामा राष्ट्रपति ट्रम्पले गरेका विभिन्न एक्जिक्युटिभ अर्डरका कारणले गर्दा धेरै मान्छेमा त्रास छ। यो तपाईँले यहाँबाट एक्जाम्पल मैले दिएँ, रेनोल्ड्सबर्गकै छेउमा एउटा सिटीमा चाहिँ कोही हाम्रो साथी ड्राइभर्सलाई चाहिँ रिन्यू गर्न गएका रहेछन्। उनको कागजपत्र सबै यहाँको सरकारले राखिदिएर तिमीले यो कागजपत्र सही तरिकाले लिएको होइन भनेर धम्क्याइरहेको अवस्था छ र यसको लागि हामी काम गरिरहेका छौँ। त्यो चाहिँ गर्नु नहुने कुरा हो। भुटानमा त यस्तो हुन्छ, राजाले जे चाहे त्यो हुन्थ्यो। यो देशमा त हुँदैन थियो, यहाँको रुल अफ लले चलेको देश। र यस्तो अवस्थामा डर र त्रासको अवस्था तपाईँ के भन्नुहुन्छ भन्ने मैले उहाँलाई सोधेको जवाब भन्नुहुन्छ, आफ्नो भोइस तपाईँलाई निकाल्नुपर्छ, आफ्नो काम गर्नुपर्छ। यो डेमोक्रेसी स्वतन्त्र देशमा हामीले विभिन्न काम गर्न सक्छौँ र यी कामहरू गर्दै जानुपर्छ। यो ठाउँमा परिवर्तन ल्याउन सकिन्छ, हामीले डराएर हुँदैन, आँट गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने कुरा उहाँले गर्नुभयो। निल?
Okay. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to be a little more pessimistic or less optimistic than Debbie, but yet not totally pessimistic, because what she says is it's true. And a year ago I would have wholeheartedly agreed, but what we're seeing now, just in just the first 3 months of this year, I mean, if you've only lived here for a few years, maybe it's just part of the whole craziness that you've experienced is living here. But I gotta say, living here all my life, this is worse than I've ever seen it. And if maybe you're remembering the lessons you had to do on how our government worked in order to take like citizenship tests, or maybe if you're doing it right now and you're thinking like, wow, this doesn't seem like what I'm learning about in my in my textbook. It is not. So for example, closing the Department of Education. I mean, Congress created that. That is law. The president's job is to enforce the law. He does not have the authority to just get rid of the Department of Education, but he's doing it. Why is he doing it? Well, it's because people in Congress are not stepping up and reclaiming their authority to say, no, you can't do this. And as for the case you mentioned, or some of the other cases we've heard about people detained by police, not showing their badges, not showing their faces. And in one case, I mean, a complete person with no crime at all, and with a complete, not temporary, but like a permanent license to be here, just deported. Yeah, that is not supposed to happen here. And in fact, our school district, we're working on a policy. It's called interrogation of students. The policy we don't have currently, but it's one that it's been recommended that we get on the books pretty quick. What do we do when when law enforcement or other authorities arrive at the school and wish to interview a student or investigate an alleged violation of law? We've heard stories where they just walk in and unchallenged, or even and they just do this unlawful stuff. So for my part, every day I'm trying to use my voice, like Debbie says, but I'm not sure even I can be disappeared. Me, a by birth white male straight American citizen. And if any of your community or others are afraid to use your voice, I wish I could say no, speak right up, but you're gonna have to make that decision on your own. But I think, Debbie, this is where you and I come in with our white privilege to speak up, not only for ourselves, but for some that unfortunately may not feel comfortable doing that yet, but definitely do the thing. I mean, register to vote in every election, vote like your lives depend on it, because they do. So
All right, thank you. उहाँलाई मैले सोधेको थिएँ, क्वेसन सोधेको थिएँ, अहिलेको अवस्थामा के गर्ने भन्दा उहाँले भन्नुहुन्छ डेबीले भने जस्तो म त्यति साह्रो धेरै आँट गरेर यो गर भन्न सक्ने क्षमतामा छुइनँ होला। कारण किनभने अहिले जुन अमेरिकामा हुँदैछन् गएको 2-3 महिनादेखि हेर्दा यी कामहरू अमेरिकाका लागि बहुत नपत्याइँदा कुरा हुन्। आजभन्दा 1 वर्ष अगाडि भने म हाँस्थेँ होला यस्तो पनि हुन्छ र अमेरिकामा भन्ने कुरा, किनभने यहाँ भनेको संविधानले चलेको देश थियो। जस्तो डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ एजुकेसन हटाउने कुरा जहाँसम्म छ, यो भनेको राष्ट्रपतिले गर्न सक्ने कामै होइन, किनभने कङ्ग्रेसबाट भएको कुरा हो, जुन चाहिँ एउटा संविधान हो, नियम हो, रुल हो, ल हो। त्यो कानुनलाई लागू गर्ने मात्रै राष्ट्रपतिको काम हो। तर बन्द गर्छु भन्छन्। तर किन बन्द गर्छु भन्छन् भन्दा काङ्ग्रेसले आफ्नो काम नगरिरहेको अवस्था छ र यस्ता विभिन्न कुरा भइरहेका कारणले गर्दाखेरि अहिलेको अवस्था पहिलेभन्दा अलिक अप्ठ्यारो छ। तर त्यो भन्दै गर्दा हामीले छोड्ने कुरा चाहिँ होइन, हामीले काम अगाडि गर्दै जानुपर्छ, आफ्नो आवाजलाई उठाउँदै जानुपर्छ। यो रुल अफ लले चलेको देश हो। र उहाँले भन्नुहुन्छ, डेबी तपाईँ र म जुन चाहिँ यहाँको गोरा जातिका मान्छे छौँ, हामीले चाहिँ अरू नबोल्ने मान्छेको लागि हामीले बोल्ने गर्नुपर्छ, आँट नगर्ने मान्छेको आँट गर्नुपर्छ र हामीले गर्दै गएपछि कानुन बदलिँदै जान्छ र व्यवस्था हुँदै जान्छ भन्ने कुराहरू उहाँले गर्नुभयो। With that said, we are 6 minutes after our scheduled time, but that's okay. And now I wanted to give you a last thought. Debbie, do you want to share anything towards the end, and we'll conclude with that one.
Well, I'm probably going to be short-winded because I know we are past our time, but I just want to say thank you. I was always called sort of the Pollyanna of the school board, the cheerleader. And so sometimes my positivity may be viewed as naivety, but, I'm hoping that, where people are being silent, they will stand up and voice their opinions. Education is incredibly important in this country, in every country. Education is what makes our communities better. Sometimes when I go knock on doors and I have someone who says, well, I don't want to approve the levy, or I don't want more money for our schools because I don't have children in our schools anymore. But our children are our future. And if we are investing in anything in this country, we need to be investing in our children because that is our future.
थ्याङ्क यू। मैले उहाँले भन्नुहुन्छ समय बितिसकेको चाहिँ म छोटो पारेर भन्छु, तर यो सबै हाम्रो रेनल्ड्सबर्ग भनेको हामी सबैजना मिलेर भएको समाज हो। म कतिचोटि दोहोरो ढाक पारेको हुन्छु, स्कुलमा ल्याबी ल्याउनुपर्छ भन्ने कुराकानी गर्दा मलाई मेरो नानीहरू छैन, म किन पैसा म गर्छु भन्ने कुरा गर्दाखेरि उहाँलाई भन्छु, नानी भनेको हाम्रो भविष्य हुन् र हाम्रो भविष्य राम्रो गर्नको लागि हामीले त्यो नानीहरूको लागि काम गर्नुपर्छ र हामी सबै मिलेर काम गर्ने भने ठिक हुन्छ भन्ने कुराको मान्यता जहिले पनि म राख्छु र हामी सबै मिलेर काम गर्न सक्छौँ भन्ने कुरा उहाँले भन्नुहुँदैछ। निल?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Boone. It's been a pleasure. And if anybody wants to reach out to me later on, you can find my contact information on the school district website, reyn.org. And this Friday and through the rest of April, from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the Welcome Center at 1555 Graham Road, I'm holding office hours as a school board member. So just go to the same place where you register your kids for kindergarten, and I'm in one of the rooms back there, 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock on Friday.
उहाँले भन्नुहुँदैछ तपाईँलाई फेरि धन्यवाद यो कार्यक्रममा मलाई बोलाइदिएकोमा। र रेनल्ड्सबर्गमा तपाईँले कसैलाई पनि भेट्न चाहनुहुन्छ भने, निल वेटम्यानलाई भेट्न चाहनुहुन्छ भने, every Friday, right?
Through April, yes.
अप्रिलभरि प्रत्येक शुक्रबार बेलुका 4 देखि 5 बजीसम्म यहाँ वेलकम रेनल्ड्सबर्गको वेलकम सेन्टर जहाँ हाम्रो नानीहरूलाई परिवेशित गरेका थियौँ उहाँ बस्नुहुन्छ। तपाईँ त्यहाँ जानुहोला। त्यहाँ बसेर चाहिँ क्वेसन सोध्न सक्नुहुन्छ उहाँलाई। विभिन्न किसिमका क्वेसन तपाईँ के छन् कसो सोध्न सक्नुहुन्छ र यसका जवाब लिन सक्नुहुन्छ भन्नुहुँदैछ। र बसन्त काफ्ले इज टेलिङ थ्याङ्क यू फर कन्डक्टिङ दिस इम्पोर्टेन्ट एन्ड युजफुल लाइभ सो किप डुइङ ग्रेट वर्क अपकमिङ डेज भन्नु धन्यवाद। विल कन्टिन्यू टु किप दिस वान। And Indra Chetri has one thing which I forget to ask you. I also think that American education system is very weak. So Indra Chetri is telling that one. So I will work on to make it better. So thank you so much, Indra.
Come
And
to office
again,
hours if you may want to run for the school board.
जब स्कुल बोर्डमा रन गरेर अगाडि फेरि तपाईँले त्यो स्कुल सिस्टमलाई राम्रो बनाउन सक्नुहुन्छ। ल लीला ढकाल स्टारिङ थ्याङ्क यू भुवनजी फर दिस इम्पोर्टेन्ट लाइभ इन फेसबुक। र सबैजनालाई धन्यवाद। र फेरि पनि के भन्छु, जो हेर्नुहुन्छ तपाईँ प्लिज युट्युबमा गएर हेर्नुहोला, युट्युबमा सब्सक्राइब गर्नुहोला, फेसबुकमा तपाईँ फलो गर्नुहोला, तपाईँले फ्रेन्ड रिक्वेस्ट पठाउनु पनि हुँदैन। र फर माई इङ्ग्लिस भ्युवर्स प्लिज गो एन्ड सब्सक्राइब माई युट्युब च्यानल and also share in a YouTube, because all this Facebook comments will be deleted in a month. I want all the comments to be made in YouTube so that it will remain for a long time. So with that, we want to say thank you for coming and namaste.
Namaste.